Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 12 wide receiver start or sit decisions. Inside today's video, we'll begin by breaking down all of the games on Thanksgiving on Thursday, all the way until Monday Night Football, and I'll be telling you guys whether I think you should start or sit the wide receivers in every single game. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. If you have any questions about week number 12, please ask down below in the comments section or in our Discord linked in the pinned comment and in the video description. So without further ado, we're going to be talking about our sponsor, BetMGM, a little bit later. Let's get into my week number 12, 2022 fantasy football wide receiver start or sit decisions. We begin with the first game on Thanksgiving, the Buffalo Bills at the Detroit Lions. This will be the second game in a row that the Buffalo Bills play in Detroit. In this matchup, I'm going to be playing both Stefon Diggs as well as Gabe Davis. Now, last week in the first half, Josh Allen was playing like a chicken with his head cut off. He was playing absolutely atrocious. Ultimately, they end up winning that game pretty easily up against the Cleveland Browns, but it was kind of shocking how bad Josh Allen has looked over the last couple of weeks. Now, I'm not here to tell you guys that Josh Allen is finished, that Josh Allen is fucked, and that Josh Allen's going to have another bad game up against one of the worst defenses in the NFL in the Detroit Lions. But what I am telling you is I am slightly nervous right now about Josh Allen. At the end of the day, though, both Stefon Diggs and Gabe Davis had solid performances in that matchup. Again, the Lions have one of the worst, if not the worst, defenses in the NFL. So Stefon Diggs as well as Gabe Davis are must starts. Amon-Ra St. Brown is also in that category of a must-start wide receiver. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens to Amon-Ra St. Brown when Jameson Williams returns relatively soon. He has already been practicing this week, so while he's not going to end up playing this week, it is entirely possible that he is back next week. I do think that will impact Amon-Ra St. Brown slightly, but ultimately, even when Jameson Williams is healthy, you're going to want to fire out Amon-Ra St. Brown. And this week, even up against a stout Buffalo Bills defense, I'm still confident in Amon-Ra St. Brown. Isaiah McKenzie is a sit. There are going to be a game every once in a while where he scores a touchdown or has a huge game, but that is pretty not predictable at all. And then Khalif Raymond and DJ Chark, baby Chark, are both sits as well. Next up, we move to the Giants at the Dallas Cowboys, the middle game on Thanksgiving. In this matchup, I'm obviously going to be starting CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb has looked so much better with Dak Prescott under center. It is actually crazy. Last week, the Dallas Cowboys beat the ever-living shit out of the Minnesota Vikings. They laid the hammer down so bad that Dak was on the bench in the fourth quarter, and the Vikings were so down bad that they started sitting their starters as well. It was a very strong game out of the Cowboys, and we're going to talk about the Vikings next because they're the final game on Thanksgiving. But the Vikings are starting to look a little fraudulent. CeeDee Lamb up against the Giants defense. Obviously, he should be a top 10, maybe even a top 5 guy in this matchup. Darius Slayton did play good last week. He was down bad the week before. He didn't really play too well in week number 10, but in week 9, he did play good as well. Ultimately, there are so many injuries to the Giants wide receivers. They just lost Wan'Dale Robinson. I know the matchup up against the Dallas Cowboys, this is no wet dream matchup for Darius Slayton, but I do think he is start worthy this week. Kenny Golladay has a catch. The Giants fans erupt. The crowd goes ecstatic, and then he's benched shortly after. Kenny Golladay is probably one of the worst picks in fantasy football history. Even though he went like the 10th round of fantasy football drafts, this guy absolutely sucks donkey cock, and his contract is egregiously bad. Richie James, I'm Rick James, bitch, is a sit as well. Michael Gallup at points looks like the Michael Gallup that we're used to from the last couple of years, but ultimately there is zero consistency. Maybe Odell will go ahead and join the Cowboys relatively soon. Noah Brown is also going to be a sit for me. The final game on Thanksgiving, the New England Patriots at the Minnesota Vikings. So we just talked about how the Minnesota Vikings are on fraud watch. The Minnesota Vikings might be frauds. And we all know Kirk Cousins is the king of 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time games. That's why they call him in Minnesota the Noon Nightmare. In the early games, he's fantastic. Last week was at 4. This game is at 8. I'm a little bit worried about Kirk Cousins here. The Patriots defense looked downright incredible up against the Jets, but Zach Wilson is so fucking bad that he will make even the worst defense look good. Ultimately, Jakobi Meyers is going to be a start here. He is only a start because of the volume that he receives in this offense. He just gets so many targets that it quantifies him to be a start-worthy player, but he's not a guy that I'm going to bang the drum for. Justin Jefferson, even in a tough matchup up against the Patriots defense, that absolutely locked up any ounce of offense that the Jets had. Justin Jefferson only had 33 yards on 3 receptions last week up against the Cowboys, but you have to think things are going to be a little bit better this week up against the Patriots. Tyquan Thornton and Devontae Parker are going to be sits for me. Devontae Parker might not even play in this game. He is banged up. Tyquan Thornton had one good game this year. I kind of bought into him. I liked him early on in the offseason before he got hurt in preseason. There was a lot to like out of Tyquan Thornton, but honestly, right now, there's nothing to like out of him. Adam Thielen keeps seeing volume, but he keeps underperforming, so he's a sit, and mostly because of the Patriots defense. KJ Osborne is also a sit. Next up, we move to the Denver Broncos at the Carolina Panthers. The Denver Broncos yesterday cut Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon's post on Instagram about getting cut and leaving the Broncos country is the funniest thing I have ever seen. Melvin Gordon posted the picture of that video of O.J. Simpson driving away in the Bronco, but instead of O.J. Simpson driving, it's Melvin Gordon. Incredibly funny, but that has nothing to do with the wide receiver position. The Panthers defense is really good. The Panthers defense is underrated. They really shut down any offensive attack that Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens had last week. So I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Wilson had a absolutely awful game in this spot, as if Russell Wilson is some genius at this point. Russell Wilson fucking sucks, but Courtland Sutton will still be fine. There's a lot of injuries to the wide receivers there. Jerry Jeudy may play. He may not play. Kendall Hinton would be the number 2 wide receiver in that case, so you kind of just gotta play Courtland Sutton, but he's not an upper echelon start. DJ Moore with Baker Mayfield is as irrelevant as it gets. It's kind of like how Terry McLaurin was down astronomical with Carson Wentz under center, and now with Taylor Heineke under center, he's been playing a lot better. DJ Moore is way better with XFL legend PJ Walker under center, and now with Baker Mayfield under center, DJ Moore is no bueno. Terrace Marshall Jr., kind of interesting, but not going to start him because the Broncos defense is downright incredible. Laviska Shenault is also going to be a sit for me. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Cleveland Browns. Now, Amari Cooper, last week, he was a guy that I was nervous to start, if I'm being honest with you. I knew that the matchup was going to be decent up against the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, at the beginning of the week, I thought you should just sit all those players because there was going to be a crazy snowstorm, which happened, but the game got moved to Detroit. And Amari Cooper's home versus road splits this season are absolutely hilarious. Until last week up against the Buffalo Bills in away games, this guy never finished as a top 31 wide receiver in half PPR and away games. Meanwhile, at home, this guy was playing out of his fucking mind. He was downright incredible, even with Jacoby Brissett not playing the best at points in this season, but he broke that streak last week, went off up against the Bills. This week, he's at home, so you got to believe he's going to do pretty good. Donovan Peoples-Jones is just one of those guys that sees so many targets every single week that he's start-worthy. He's one of those guys kind of like Jakobi Meyers, where you don't have to force him into your lineup, but if you got him, there's a reason to start him because he's going to see volume. Last week, obviously, he scored a garbage time touchdown up against the Bills. For the Buccaneers, I am going to be starting both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Right now, Tom Brady is 2-0 after divorcing his wife who allegedly cheated on him. I say allegedly because I don't know if it's true, but I read it on the internet, so it's got to be true, right? When you read things on the internet, it's always true. That's what they taught us in school. Mike Evans here should be in for a pretty solid spot. Chris Godwin is another one of these guys that keeps getting the volume. Tom Brady keeps force-feeding the rock down this guy's throat, and he keeps not putting up numbers, but eventually that streak has got to break, and next week, for the Cleveland Browns, we have the return of Deshaun Watson. Julio Jones is going to be a sit, as is David Bell. I like David Bell, the player. He just really hasn't done anything this season in his rookie year. Next up, we move to the Baltimore Ravens at the Jacksonville Jaguars. But before we break this game down in terms of the wide receiver position, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at BetMGM. Now, they have a exclusive offer for you guys if you're a brand new user to BetMGM and you click on the link in the video description down below and bet $10 on any pregame moneyline World Cup game. You will win $200 in free bets if any team scores a goal during the World Cup. So it doesn't even have to be during the game you bet on. Your team doesn't have to score. If no goals are scored in the games you bet on that day, then it's okay, because the next day someone could score and you are going to receive $200 in free bets. So I'm going to throw it on the screen right now. You're going to see the top of the screen on BetMGM. It says soccer up there with the little soccer ball. You're going to click on that, and then you're literally going to pick any game. Whichever game has the biggest favorite, you bet $10 on that. Even if that bet loses, you'll still receive $200 in free bets if a team scores a goal during the World Cup, which is guaranteed to happen. So please make sure that you guys do go ahead and check that out if you're a brand new user. And then with those $200 in free bets, you can bet it on the NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, whatever you want. You can use those $200 in free bets on, or even the World Cup again. So make sure you guys do check that out. It's not often that these books want to give you guys free money, and that's exactly what BetMGM is doing right now. And this offer is only going to last until the first week of December 4th. So make sure you guys take advantage of it right now before it disappears. Back on into things we move. Back into the Baltimore Ravens going toe-to-toe with the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. The Baltimore Ravens, ever since Rashad Master Bateman got hurt, have just been a team where I don't want anything to do with the receivers. Could Devin Duvernay go absolute apeshit on the Jacksonville Jaguars defense? Could Demarcus Robinson? Could James Prochet II? Definitely, but I don't trust any of them worth anything, so I'm not going to start them. Christian Kirk has looked pretty solid as of recently. We've seen some downward spirals for Christian Kirk, where he looks awful. We've seen some downward spirals out of touchdown Jesus Trevor Lawrence, where he looks bad. But ultimately here, in a matchup up against the Ravens, I'm going to fire up Christian Kirk with confidence. Zay Jones is a deep league start, but this week there is no one on bye. This video is going to be a little bit longer because of that, so when there's no one on bye, do you really want Zay Jones in your lineup? Probably not. Same thing goes with Marvin Jones Jr. Next up, we got my Miami Dolphins going up against the Houston Texans in Miami. I'm going to be starting both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle away, waddle, and he waddled away till the very next day. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. You already knew you were going to start them, though. Tyreek Hill has lit the fucking NFL on fire. Jalen Waddle is the tag team partner there, having very solid season as well. The Houston Texans defense is as soft as baby shit. It is that expensive ass 10-ply tissue paper that you can buy at the store. It's very easy to see both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle absolutely dominating 50 Shades of Grey BDSM style all over that garbage, awful Houston Texans defense. Trent Sherfield will get his, but ultimately, come on, do you really want to start Trent Sherfield with everyone not on bye, right? Everyone is playing. No. Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins. Nico Collins is an excellent player. This situation's just bad, and the Dolphins defense is so much better at home compared to away. Away, the Dolphins defense is non-existent, but at home, they are rock fucking solid. Chris Moore is going to be a sit as well. This is going to be, in my opinion, a blowout, and that is without my Dolphins bias. Next up, we got the Bears at the New York Jumbo Jets in MetLife. Zach Wilson. The team had more punts than you had completions. You averaged 2.2 inches per play. 2.2, not yards, inches. Your ass is basically grass. Robert Saleh might bench your ass in this game. You might not even be the starting quarterback in this game. Now, do I think Zach Wilson's career is over? Of course not. He could go ahead and win one of those Grey Cups in the CFL with the fucking Toronto Argonauts or something. Again, that's a joke. If I was the Jets, I would keep riding with Zach Wilson because you got to at least give him the rest of this year, right? And then if he doesn't pay out, it is what it is. You get rid of him. Yeah, you bring in Derek Carr or some shit, right? But right now, you got to stick with the MILF Hunter. Garrett Wilson shit the bed in that game, but obviously he was going to shit the bed if Zach Wilson could not move the ball. My favorite play of the game, I don't remember who it was they threw the ball to. It might have been Michael Carter, wide open, like swinging his hands up in the air like, hey, pal, throw me the ball. It's a check down, and Zach Wilson soars that thing like 20 yards above his head. Absolutely hilarious. Garrett Wilson is a start, though, because he is the focal point on this team. Darnell, here comes the Mooney, has been playing really good, but this Jets defense is legit, and I think Sauce will be on Darnell Mooney, so Darnell probably shit the bed. Chase Claypool, since being traded for a second-round pick, has had like 5 catches. That's not good. And also, Justin Fields is banged up. I assume he plays, but there's also potential that he misses. Dante Pettis also a sit. Elijah Moore, the quarterback, won. He made a joke basically on Instagram, posted a picture of him throwing the football, saying he's better than Zach Wilson, basically. Corey Davis is also a sit. This game fucking reeks. Next up, we got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Atlanta Titans, the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. There are some rumors spreading around right now that Jamar Chase might end up playing. He was on crutches last week, and he's going to play this week. I don't know about that. Now, the Bengals are in crunch time. The Bengals are right now in the playoffs. They lose this game, they'd be out of the playoffs. It's week 12. It's crunch time. The NFL playoffs are coming just around the corner. So I get why Jamar Chase might be trying to push himself to get back on the field because the team is much better with Jamar Chase out there. Obviously, because he's one of the better receivers in the National Football League. But on his first game out, if he's healthy, I'm going to play him. But I need to hear some reports on Sunday. Like, I need to make sure that we're not getting fucking bullshitted by Jamar Chase going out there and just being a decoy, kind of just standing out there every once in a while. And the defense still has to be ready because, oh, maybe he just busts one out and fucking burns the corner and scores a touchdown like Devontae Adams did last week. That was hilarious. But Jamar Chase, I hope he doesn't play because I don't think he's going to be healthy. But again, I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, so what the fuck do I know? If Jamar Chase doesn't play, then Titty Boy T. Higgins is a start, as is Tyler Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals. Treylon Burks with the A1 steak sauce performance last week up against the Cheeseheads in Green Bay, up against the Packers. Treylon Burks had his breakout game. Didn't really do shit up until this point. He did miss a bunch of games with injury. He did look really good against the Packers. I will continue to bang the drum for that. He had 111 yards in that game. He was the clear focal point in that offense besides Derrick Henry. So again, I don't necessarily trust Ryan Tannehill. He hasn't been that great this season, but with how little weapons the Tennessee Titans have, like the guys behind Burks are Robert Woods, Nick Westbrook, Ikain, like those names like make you want to fucking projectile vomit. So Treylon Burks is a start for me. Next up, we move to the Atlanta Falcons at the Washington Commanders. My guy, Will Compton, has signed with the Atlanta Falcons, according to Will Compton, my favorite linebacker in the NFL. So that's exciting. But ultimately, this game also reeks. The Commanders are looking kind of hot, but Taylor Heineke's pretty hit or miss. I talked about this in the trade target video over on Stokastic Fantasy Football. Check that out after you watch today's video. There's going to be another video later tonight as well. But I talk about how it's funny because Terry McLaurin hinges so much on Taylor Heinicke, despite the fact that Heinicke is a worse quarterback than Wentz. With Heinicke, McLaurin gets way more chances to catch the deep ball. Like Carson Wentz is never going to throw the ball into double, or he will throw it into, just throw it to the other team, but he's never going to really take that deep shot. Fuck it, Terry McLaurin's out there somewhere that Taylor Heinicke will. So Terry McLaurin's a must start every week. This matchup against the Falcons is a wet dream. The Falcons defense sucks absolute ass. So I expect a big game out of McLaurin, but again, there is downsides to it because Heinicke is still Heinicke. He's going to make those throws that look excellent, that Commanders fans are like, holy shit. And then there's going to be ones where the Commanders fans also say, holy shit, because he sails it directly into 3 defenders. So it's just kind of a give and take with Terry McLaurin and Taylor Heinicke, but I do feel way better with McLaurin with Heineke under center. Curtis Samuel is a start as well. He's kind of one of those bottom of the barrel starts that you play because you like the matchup, and you play him because you know what he's going to do. He's going to get maybe a couple of carries because they like to run the ball with him. Riverboat Ron back all the way to the Carolina Panthers with Curtis Samuel. He's going to get a couple of catches. He's probably not going to blow up and have this humongous game where he puts your fantasy football team on his back, but he's also more than likely not going to sink your ship like the fucking Titanic, and he'll have just a decent game. So that's kind of how I think of Curtis Samuel every week. Drizzy Drake London is going to be a sit. If you are in a deeper league, you can start him. He's looked good. They don't have Kyle Pitts, but the problem is they just don't really throw the ball that much, and you already know Damiere Byrd. Damiere Byrd or fucking Olamide Zacchaeus are going to end up scoring a touchdown. And then Jahan Dotson is a sit. He's a great player, but now the Commanders have really looked good at running the ball effectively, so I don't think you really want to start all three guys. Next up, we got the LA Chargers at the Arizona Cardinals, and I don't know if there's a quarterback that's better at choking the game away in the fourth quarter than Justin Herbert. Every single time, back against the wall, Justin Herbert, interception. It's so fucking funny. It's like clockwork. You can just see it coming. I had bet on the LA Chargers plus 5.5. They covered up against the Chiefs. But I knew. But Nick, the offensive line's hurt, this, that, and the other thing. Okay. But Justin Herbert loves fourth quarter interceptions. But ultimately, Justin Herbert looks great in the first three quarters or until like the final drive of the game. So Joshua Palmer absolutely fucking exploded last week up against the Chiefs. Even with Allen and Mike Williams healthy, Mike Williams now hurt again. Maybe they rushed him back too soon, like I was kind of saying, like that injury. He shouldn't have been playing in that game, but again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not proclaiming to have a fucking PhD, like the flopper in Black Ops 1, but let's be honest here, that was kind of an idiotic move, but again, what do I know? Not a doctor. Mike Williams, not going to play this week, I wouldn't think, so he's a sit. Joshua Palmer went off. Looks great. Start him. Keenan Allen looked great too. Didn't have a crazy point total in fantasy, but he looked good for his first week back. So up against the sorry Cardinals defense, who just let Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think George Kittle called him Himmy Garoppolo, just take turns teeing off on that ass of the Cardinals defense in Mexico City. So Palmer and Keenan Allen are both starts. At this point, though, call me crazy, but I have more confidence in Joshua Palmer. DeAndre Hopkins, even with Colt McCoy under center, he ended up having a pretty decent game. This week, we should be seeing the short king, the king of Warzone, the king of Call of Duty, Kyler Murray back under center, which boosts up D-Hop. Rondell Moore gets hurt at the beginning of the game. I saw one of the funniest tweets was some fantasy analyst had, again, I don't remember who it was, so I apologize. Their friend texted him and was like, hey, I have Rondell Moore. I'm winning by half a point or under a point. Should I play Rondell Moore or should I keep it safe and bench him? And the guy's basically like, and this is the exact advice I would have given as well, which is, hey, I know you might want to bench him, but there's stat corrections. There's also a chance that at the end of the season, those points matter. So, hey, throw Rondell Moore, and you don't want to miss the playoffs by 4 points because you bench Rondell Moore in week 11, and then Rondell Moore scores negative points and gets hurt on the first fucking play of the game. Fantasy football is a fickle bitch. Rondell Moore, I don't think he's going to play. He's a sit. Hollywood Brown could play. We'll kind of assess that later on in the week. I don't think Mike Williams is going to play. Next up, we got turn your volume down, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Seattle Seahawks. Shout out to John Madden. Rest in peace. Thanksgiving on Thursday. Turducken season. I don't know why that all came to my mind. I guess the Raiders just brought that out of me. Devontae Adams. Shit on the Denver Broncos. Even though, actually, the Raiders won. I almost forgot the Raiders won. That game fucking sucked. That game sucked, man. That game was absolute hot garbage. It was hot ass, but not like the hot ass, like, damn, that's a nice ass, like, damn, that's fucking disgusting hot ass, you know what I'm saying? But Devontae Adams looks great. Even when the Raiders shit the bed in these games, he still plays good, so he's a must-start. DK Metcalf Lockett also in must-start category. The Raiders' defense is putrid. It's just that the Broncos' offense is so bad that they made the Raiders look like they had the 85 Bears back there. So DK Metcalf is a start, as is Tyler Lockett. It's actually funny that we were just talking about the Broncos, but Russell Wilson literally made it so the last couple of years when Metcalf and Lockett were playing together with Russell Wilson, that neither Metcalf and Lockett could eat together. They could not eat together. One would have a great game, the other kind of watch from the side. Now with Geno Smith cooking things up, 5-star fucking Michelin chef Gordon Ramsay style, Lockett and Metcalf can simultaneously eat. Mac Hollins, yikes. I thought he would be playing better. He's not playing very good at all. Keelan Cole's a sit, and then Marquise Goodwin also a sit. Next up, we got the LA Rams at the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sorry to anyone I told to start Kadarius Toney. The Kadarius Toney thought process last week was simple. Kadarius Toney is basically the only healthy receiver on the team. They're playing in a game against the Chargers, whose defense is not the best. He's going to get fed. But then Kadarius Toney doesn't get fed, and he gets hurt. I'm still a believer in Kadarius Toney, but this motherfucker's hamstring is just non-existent. It's bad. Maybe he wasn't lying to the Giants. Juju Smith-Schuster, if he plays, he's a start. He was really looking like he was going to be a league winner. Obviously, gets the concussion not last week, the week before. Who knows how far upon he is in the concussion protocol. But if he plays, you got to start him even up against the Rams. Allen Robinson played okay last week, like nice. But Matthew Stafford's probably not playing this week. That might be 2 concussions in 3 weeks. Not good. Allen Robinson's a sit. Van Jefferson's a sit. Ben Skoranek is a sit. This game is funny because going into the year, like Chiefs-Rams, people might have thought that was going to be the Super Bowl. Right? The Rams go all in. Last year, they have all these players. Like, the Rams, realistically, on paper, at least, looked really good going into the year. Obviously, they fucking suck. But that's just kind of my take on this. It would have been an interesting way people would have thought this could have been like, oh, this is the preview of the Super Bowl in Week 12. It's not. It's not. The Rams suck. The Chiefs might be in the Super Bowl, but the Rams won't be. Yeah, if Juju doesn't play, I'm interested in MVS. If MVS plays, I also would be interested in Kadarius Toney, but again, this is something we kind of got to kick down the line. But if Juju plays, Juju is the must-start guy on the Chiefs. Like, he really has looked good. Next up, we got the New Orleans Saints at the San Francisco 49ers. Chris Olave, what a catch. What a catch. What a throw by Andy Dalton. I like to make fun of Andy Dalton. I would prefer, personally, if Jameis Winston was under center, but that dude threw a fucking missile, a nuke to Chris Olave. What a catch that was for Olave. Very interesting. Great play. Olave is an incredible talent. I've been talking about this for weeks, how much I love Olave. So, going to start him even up against a tough Niners defense, but I don't expect Andy Dalton to look very explosive here because the Niners defense is incredible. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk have a field day against the Arizona Cardinals. Like, literally, just, it was almost mean what they did, right? And then, I don't know if you guys saw this, but when Brandon Ayuk scored, he fucking heaved the football, and it hit one of the guys that's like on his knee, taking like pictures. Being a photographer is what they call those guys. Just hit him directly in the cock with the football, and the guy like falls over. Everyone's laughing. Christian McCaffrey goes over there. He's like, "Oh, dude, are you okay?" And the guy's like, and then eventually, like, Ayuk goes over there. He's like, "Oh, man, I'm sorry, man." I don't know exactly what he says. Obviously, I'm just in my head envisioning what they're saying. But, yeah, very funny clip. If you haven't seen it, you should go ahead and watch that. But Ayuk and Deebo, you start him every week. Deebo was on a train of being absolutely ass for fantasy. Still probably is a fantasy bust, but you got to start him every week because of how good he is. Starting to think Deebo might be a primetime guy because in both primetime games, he's been great. And outside of that, he's been pretty shit. Outside of these guys, though, Jarvis Landry in deeper leagues, I can see starting him. He's going to get targets, but he's probably never going to have a huge blow-up game. Traquan Smith with Jarvis back is kind of dead in the water. Jawan Jennings, come on, man. You're not starting Jawan Jennings. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers at the Philadelphia Eagles in primetime Sunday night football. You waited all day for Sunday night. Allen Lazard continues to get targeted. 2 shit games in a row, though. Against the Eagles defense, I'm not necessarily banging the drum for him, but what I will tell you is that I have more confidence in Allen Lazard than I think most people have. Christian Watson is on a... He must have scored the most touchdowns in a span of 5 days ever. Because he scored a bunch of touchdowns on Thursday, a bunch on Sunday the week before. Guy's on a tear. Do I think he can keep it up? Probably not, but you're still going to start him. You're still going to ride the hot streak. A.J. Brown, bad game against the Colts. Bad game the week before. But hey, you're still going to roll him out. The Packers not looking the best. Devontae Smith, but you start both these guys every week. You know the downside of Hurts rushing upside. You know Miles Sanders is there. You know A.J. Brown could just siphon everything from Smith. You know Smith could siphon everything from Brown. But ultimately, they're so fucking good. You got to start both of them. Randall Cobb, the old man himself, actually played pretty solid on Thursday Night Football up against the Atlanta Titans. But he's a sit, as is Quez Watkins. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Colts. Michael Pittman Jr. didn't have that bad of a game. So if you want to consider him a start, go ahead. But at some point, you have to just be tired of it. You just have to be like, fuck it, man. I'm tired of you, Michael Pittman Jr. Even with Matt Ryan back, which is better for Michael Pittman, I still don't feel comfortable starting him. And the Steelers defense, I know hasn't been the best, but I think the Steelers defense is much better than how they've been playing. Thus, I'm done with Michael Pittman. Petty Campbell just keeps getting force-fed the ball by Matty Ice Baby, so I'm comfortable starting Petty Campbell. George Pickens is the #1 receiver on the Steelers. I was such a big Deontay Johnson guy in the offseason, banging the drum for him all offseason long, saying, oh my God, the top 10 upside. People are sleeping on him. Doesn't matter if it's Mitch Trubisky kissing titties. Doesn't matter if it's Kenny Pickett. I don't give a damn. I'm going Deontay Johnson. He still keeps getting volume, but he's not doing much with it. He's a sit. Sims is a sit. Pierce is a sit. MPJ is a sit. I'm only starting Pickens and Patty Campbell. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying today's video, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you hit that like button on today's video. It'd help us out a ton. Make sure you check out the sponsor, BetMGM. Get that free money on the World Cup. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. Any questions, week 12, leave them down below. Love you. As always. Goodbye!